So welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the first video explaining pretty much what kind of got me to start this channel and why I'm a bit disgruntled, and that's just me using very nice terminology here towards not FRC Southwest as a company, but towards the management that was taking care of the building in which I resided in, and I mean, it just, overall, it used to be a good place to work at. When I started off there, I was an apprentice, and I went through the whole program. The first 2 years were amazing. I had a real good supervisor, real good management. In my opinion, stuff was getting done. People weren't trying to achieve anything, going too crazy. You went in there, did your 8 hours, got the job done, did what was expected of you, and you were out. Clock out, you're out, get into your traffic, move on with your life. Then we had a group called the BCG. They showed up, did what they had to do, and they started slowly but surely, I guess adding new management roles in there. And we ended up getting 2 guys there whose names I will not name for obvious legal reasons, and in case they try to, say I named them out or anything of that sort. But I'll just use their rank. So we had an IDPT, sorry, and we had a production manager. And I understand, we're in a production environment, but there also needs to be, I guess, a line that defines, when you're just a number, when you're just a human being, when to be treated as such. You can't always be 24/7 business. People have lives outside of here. People have things to do. People have to do, there's issues that arise, family members, that things happen, and management should be trained appropriately and taught that things will happen, no matter what you do, no matter how much you try to slave drive people or control the way that they are or they react, things will always happen. Babies are born, people get sick, people pass away, accidents happen, traffic happens. Your wheel, your tire pops, something could happen. And I think management should always be understanding, that these things do happen, and you can't just always blame the employee. The employee isn't always trying to be lazy or isn't trying to skate. I'm sure there is many out there that do, but in many circumstances, it ends up happening, and the employee is scared to even call in. And this is what ended up happening, at least within my building in FRC Southwest. We went from being the most sought after building, everybody wanted to go in, we took pride in our work there, all the way to just being the most horrendous building. Nobody wanted to be there. It had the worst reputation out there, the most write-ups, the most HR complaints, and unfortunately, management was in cahoots with HR, it seems. And every single time we try to put in a grievance, or we even try to get the union involved, somehow, some way, these 2 very specific managers, production manager and IDPT, sorry, they always seemed to get away with it, and I was one of the very few people who was able to go ahead and have all his ducks in a row as best as possible, and be able to explain everything appropriately and have the proper documentation, have all that proof to shut them up. And even then, they tried real hard, to get me into trouble, to get me fired, essentially, because by the time that all this craziness started happening, I was already considered a permanent employee. So they couldn't just get rid of me right away. I honestly believe that they tried doing what's called quiet firing, where they make your life a living hell every day, so you just want to quit. For which I did. I eventually quit. But I didn't leave the government. I still work for the government, but now I work in a much better place, much better work-life balance. The team that I work for right now, I love them very much. I love my work environment. Man, you don't appreciate a good job until you've had an insane one prior to that. So anyways, I've sidetracked too much. So going on to that story, when I was in there for a good 3 years, maybe into my apprenticeship, 1 more year to graduate, the wife, she ended up getting pregnant. which it's supposed to be a good thing, right? What do? You're supposed to go ahead, talk to your chain of command, your supervisor, let them know, hey, the wife is preggers, might have to take a couple, times off at random, because you got doctor appointments, wife might not be feeling good, whatever. And of course, speak to HR, get that FMLA going, get all your ducks in a row, get those doctor notes ready, that kind of stuff. It's supposed to be real simple. HR is supposed to be okay with it. There's supposed to be no problems whatsoever, And there wasn't any at first, just pre-planned doctor appointments, let them know, good to go. Well, things happen, and it turns out that there are some complications within this pregnancy, and it's a bit tough for me to talk about it, but that's how it is. And unfortunately, we lost the child. The wife ended up having to go ahead and get a DNC surgery. It turns out, to make matters worse, that she is an Rh negative blood type, which puts her at a high risk of bleeding out, after the surgery. So of course, did the right thing, told chain of command, hey, what to expect, that kind of stuff. And at first, everything seemed to be fine. The doctor told me, hey, you gotta have to stay home for around 1 or 2 weeks. You gotta take care of her, do the whole hygiene thing, cleaning up there any blood, helping her with anything she may need, because she needs to be in bed rest, recovering. She could bleed out at any moment because of her Rh negative blood type. So it was pretty serious stuff, And I ended up telling my chain of command. They requested documentation, so of course I went ahead, got documentation, gave everything I was able to give. But my management kept asking for more and more documentation, even though they got the doctor appointment notes already. They got everything, but now they're saying that the doctor's note needs to have my name on it, apparently for HR to go ahead and accept that I'm going to be gone for about a week or two and take care of her, even though they know already that she just had a major surgery. So I'm talking to the doctor. The doctor thinks that this is too many questions, too many things. I'm not the patient, it's my wife, and the doctor feels like management is violating the HIPAA. For those who don't know, HIPAA is supposed to protect your privacy, and management asking over and over for these details is just not right. And that's what the doctor was saying. So of course he refused to put my name on it, rightfully so. He didn't want to risk his medical license, and I told this to the IDPT. I spoke to him directly and told him, hey, he doesn't want to do it. He keeps pushing and pushing, saying that this is something that you need to do, for HR needs it, this and that. So of course, I've never been through this event before. I've never lost a kid. I've never, been exposed to such things. I'm starting off, and of course I have a freak out, and I yelled at him. I had to yell at him and let him know, hey, like I'm not comfortable with this. I really don't want to have to get a lawyer involved. So, wow, out of nowhere, magically he says, okay, I'll just speak to HR and make it work. And yeah, he did. Nothing happened from it. So that was the first time. The second time that it happened, okay, it gets a little crazier. So the wife gets pregnant again, because we are trying to have a family. And I'm sure many of you can understand that. So now that we have a little bit of a history here, the OBGYN takes a couple more precautions, that kind of stuff. But now management's aware that I've taken lots of leave in the past due to this pregnancy, and I'm sure somewhere along the line they were wary that, hey, he's going to probably start doing that again. So they were prepping for this. I know they were, And by this point in time, we already had a whole different supervisor. So it wasn't the same one as before, And unfortunately for this second pregnancy, there was complications one more time. So I was taking the wife a lot more to the OBGYN since she already had that history, And to make matters worse, we end up, having this appointment, and it was scheduled. I forgot the date, but it was scheduled at some point in time. And I was tasked to work on this part on a plane because that's what I used to do. I worked on planes within Fleet Readiness Center Southwest, and I messed up my hands. So not only do I have this complications going on, my hands are messed up in the process. So I'm also going, to see a doctor for therapy, that kind of stuff. So it just so happens that the doctor appointment for my therapy and the doctor appointment for my wife land within the same day. So I'm explaining this to my supervisor, and my supervisor, the last one I had there, he was real cool guy. He was understanding. He was for the people. He come from the bottom up. He didn't take crap from no one, but he was being forced constantly to be an asshole to us against his will, because it's either he does that to us or his production manager will get him fired or written up or something. And they were really grilling this poor man. And if you're out here hearing me talk about this, man, thank you so very much for all you've done. Because thanks to you, I got to go ahead and find out a lot of things. So thank you for that, brother. But anyways, going back to it, so both of these appointments were together at the same time. And of course, I told my supervisor already, he's already kind of spooked out because they have a lot of pressure on him because employees were taking days off with their own leave, which they do have, which we should be allowed to take off at will as long as we got it. So what ends up happening? He tells me, well, you got to talk to the IDPT. I'm like, cool, I'll talk to him. But of course, he ends up talking to himself, behind closed doors and whatnot. So here I am observing as all this is happening. He steps outside and tells me, no, you've only been authorized for the one for your hands free therapy since it happened on site, but you're not authorized to take leave for your other appointment. And I told the supervisor, hey man, I know it's not you. I know this is coming from the production manager or from the IDPT, but you need to understand this. This is an appointment for my pregnant wife. And I need to go to this appointment, and there's nothing that's going to stop me from going. So, of course, he tells me, well, I can't stop you, but I had to say what I had to say just to cover my own base, and I get it, I completely understand. So I still end up taking off. I do what I got to do. Of course, he calls me saying, hey, so you ended up leaving, not coming back? I'm like, yeah. And he's calling me while I'm, currently in the office talking to the OBGYN, and that's when I received the bad news that, my child has no heartbeat, 4 months into the pregnancy. So, of course, it's not the greatest of news yet again. And we were told that this was a higher risk because it's a lot more later in the term, and the Rh negative blood type making it a lot worse, and I ended up telling the supervisor, hey man, honestly speaking, we just received these bad news. I'm not coming back, and I'm going to have to go ahead and, the times I do show up to work after this appointment, I'm going to be on standby because the doctor needs me to be ready to answer a phone call because she's going to need an emergency DNC. That's how big of a deal this is. And she's going to need to be taken care of for 1 to 2 weeks after the surgery. So now he knows this. So the event happens, we're just waiting for the appointment. Long story short, I'm working for maybe 2 more days, just hating my life, upset, can't even grieve properly. Have to fake that I'm happy at work. Or not even happy, just fake it till you make it, not show off too much that, you're pissed off or whatever, And of course, I told the IDPT, he happened to walk by and he asked how I was doing. I told him, and all I got was, oh, okay, well, I hope everything's fine, and walks away. Yeah, we'll go figure, right? What else can you say at this point? I get the call, surgery happens. It's the next day the surgery's supposed to happen, it happens. Of course, I'm going to take 2 weeks off because that's what the doctor said to do. Well, literally the next day after the surgery, I get a call from my supervisor. Of course, he's being forced because I know he's not that type of person. And the reason why I keep saying this is because I've known him for the entire time I worked there. He's a good man. Turns out the production manager told him to call me, ask where I was. So then when I told him I was going to stay at home, I had to take care of the wife. Doctor said what he needed, that I needed to stay. Got to do what I got to do. Family will always come first. And that's what I told my supervisor. I guess the production manager told him, while he was on the phone next to me, because I got to hear him, to pretty much give me some official mumbo jumbo, which he did. His words were, well, for all intents and purposes, I'm hereby ordering you to return back to work. So he needed to say it. It's fine. He said it. I told him, tell the manager, I said to kiss my ass. And I said it pretty loud. I don't know if you heard me or not, but I know he didn't tell him because he knew I was pretty upset and probably wouldn't have been a good idea to have done it anyways, So I took care of the wife for those 2 weeks. Well, during those 2 weeks, instead of me focusing on grieving, taking care of the wife, making sure she's fine, I was getting hammered and blasted with phone calls left and right about documentation this, documentation that. I don't like this, I don't like that. I need you to provide now this, now that, now this and that. It's like the man or the people there didn't even let me grieve in peace. They didn't even let me recover from this. Here I am, struggling, stressing, trying to keep the house afloat while they're just pestering me and hammering me with all sorts of questions. They couldn't have waited till I returned for me to gather anything they needed me to gather. No, of course not. It needed to be done right there on the spot on their time. That was not fair, Of course, once all the craziness is done and I come back, I'm obviously very disgruntled. I'm very pissed off. I'm very upset. A very messed up thing just happened to me, and my wife absolutely despises these two people. I'm not too happy with them either, and during the time that all this was happening, I still had my hands messed up. And then on top of that, once I came back, I still had to, quote unquote, show up to work, make it look like, I'm good, whatever, play my cards, because that's where they were trying to, again, silently fire me by making my life very difficult, The production manager pushed documentation. It's called a letter of reprimand. So it was just a letter trying to tell me that I'm going to have my leave limited. I can't take leave without documentation at any moment, that kind of crap. I was already being told to do this, so it didn't really matter to me. And during the time that my hands were messed up, I was already applying to other jobs, and I landed a really good position. I won't say the where, just because I'm pretty sure at one point they're going to see this video and they're going to be bothering me. So putting that out there. But I took a better position. It was less pay at first, but now I'm caught up on pay. Wonderful team, work-life balance, the whole 9 yards. Can't complain. But these people are still there, making life miserable for many other employees. And I got so many stories of just the messed up things that these two men were doing, and they have a horrendous reputation in the island. But HR doesn't do anything about it. Nobody does anything about it because nobody's got the freaking balls to do something about it. Everyone's scared for their jobs. I looked up regulations. I looked labor laws, spoke with the union. I had the whole 9 yards. That's why they couldn't get rid of me. Because they knew I was going to be a big problem if they got me fired just for something like that. So they were just waiting for me to screw up. But I got to leave. I guess if you want to put it this way, they got me to quit, but I didn't really quit. All I did was just change locations because I still work for the government. That little stupid letter of reprimand that the production manager tried to push on me, thinking that it was going to follow me throughout my career. It didn't. Different institution. Doesn't bother me none. I've actually wrecked so much leave because I love my job so much that I can take a day off whenever. I can be gone for a month and still get paid. So in terms of employment, it worked out for the best. In terms of what a piece of shit that place was due to these two men, and it still is from what I hear. I still keep in contact with a lot of people there. It sucks. The production manager got promoted to IDPT. The IDPT is sitting on God knows how many lawsuits and somehow is getting away with all of them. I know he's real good at covering his ass because I know he took, I guess, business classes, or what was it? No, not that, law classes. So he knows something, and I'm sure with the money he's making, he's got a good lawyer. Only reason why I didn't sue at the time was because I was transitioning to a new job. And I didn't have the right mindset for it nor the money, but I'm considering it now. I'm still kind of getting my ducks in a row concerning that subject, you know. But yeah, I mean, if anyone has any thoughts, comments, concerns, please subscribe and like, comment below. Let me know anything I could do or say to make things better within this channel. And I'll be uploading a lot more anecdotes, not even stories at this point. These are things that I personally went through and personally saw others go through too.